You're not going to call it that, are you? Not really. You're not bloody serious, surely. Oh, bugger off with it.
What are you going to use to knock this little lot down today?
About 19 pound weight of gel ignite, a bit of Cortex, a fuse and a detonator.
As jobs go, is it a difficult one for you?
Not particularly, no. The square side is facing where the place is going to go. If you see the pile of bricks over there, and anybody you don't like, get them sitting on that. That's where it's going, over there.
How many chimneys have you knocked down in your time?
This will be the 238th since 1970. Before that, I didn't keep count. I only started counting in 1970.
Does it please you that that this chimney is going to make way for a new brewery? Because it's going to delight everybody around here, I
couldn't
think.
care less what it makes way for, sir, as long as I get paid for knocking it down. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, let me say, as the Sergeant Major said to the dusky maiden as he was leaving the shores of Mandalay, thank you for the clap. In trying to avoid it all my bloody life. I had a note passed to me by the management 5 minutes ago. He said, would the gentleman with the red Reliant Robin GT turbo gear go onto the car park as there's a rat trying to pull it down the grid? Right, now then, would you come and give a talk? Shells, bombs, rockets, bullets, things that go bump in the night. And to give talks on actuators and other devices, propellant powders for the sporting and military gentry, to the inner wheel, the Townswomen's Guild and the WI, it's bloody nigh impossible. But you do get con to go to places you don't want to go to, like the Corbett, for instance. No, the File Coast Ladies Luncheon Club. And when I walked in the Imperial Hotel in Blackpool, there sat 360 Blackpool landladies, and they are big, powerful women. Somebody said, why do Blackpool landladies eat their young? And now I know. I said, ladies, I haven't come here today to give you a talk about being blatted into eternity with a guided missile, nor into maternity with a guided muscle. And that seemed to have knackered it for me. The Round Table Society, the Rotary Club, the Ku Klux Klan and the Masons in Blackpool. That is why we are prattling about round here tonight, to let the buggers simmer down a bit. And then one chap said to me, do come and give a talk in the salubrious surroundings of the Derby Assembly rooms to 400 engineering persons. And I'd never heard of an engineering person. I'd heard of mechanical engineers, civil engineers, engineering apprentices, but never an engineering person. So I fished out my Moriarty's police law. And looking under the law, it seemed that some tool in Parliament had a bill pushed through, making us all persons, no such thing as men and women. You can imagine what sort of a life he led. Probably as queer as a bottle of crisp. There was an ugly rumour going about this time, that they put Rock Hudson in his box upside down so his friends would recognise him. What he said, the only thing they couldn't sell on the Antique Roadshow was Liberace's piano stool. Dirty bugger. Should have been done away with at birth. Fancy having that stuck in your front room. Bloody hell. Anyway, I said to this chappie, how do you know there's salubrious surroundings in the Derby Assembly rooms? He said, well, you see it many times. I said, I've never been in the place. He said, but you see it on telly, they snooker in there. I said, oh, that damn soft game, I watched it one night. Did you see that night when Mr. Clean wouldn't lend his opponent his extension because he wouldn't tell him what colour his ball was? You see that bloody childishness? You can tell I don't like snooker. I don't play snooker. The only time I knock two balls straight together is when I trod on the garden rake. Anyway, no, sorry about that. No, I got carried away there. Anyway, I was prevailed upon to go to the Derby Assembly rooms. As much as he described it, golden dolphins spewing water over nymphs, Javanese fighting fish, knocking hell out of your bunking, floating about in the walls. It looked like the office of Dr. No. And in front of me sat 396 blokes. I thought, I'll give these buggers some stick. I don't have to stay around it like I'm trying to do tonight. And I just got started, and 4 ladies came down the centre aisle and spragged themselves out on the front row, and I thought, that hath knackered it for the lads. I'm going to get shut of these 4. I tried my opening gambit like your hairdo, missus, have you come on a motorbike? No, not yours, madam, no. The one in the Derby Assembly room. And that didn't shift them. And the younger one had slid down the back of the heavy maquette tip-up seats, not this plastic crap that you're sitting on, heavy maquette, and rocked her somewhat flimsy miniskirt 2 inches just beneath the navel. And something winked at me at 15 feet. And I said to her, what a funny place to keep a bloody hedgehog. Being a country boy, it was the first animal that sprang to mind. And that didn't shift them either. I thought, well, bugger it, let them get on with it. So you can well imagine being invited along to the Winslow, Hanford and Alderley Edge Ladies Luncheon Club. For me to give them a talk. Good God, you've got to hold yourself on a tight rein, I'll tell you. I went there and 40,000 quid's worth of hats walked in. Some with a banana rampant. And then I pulled out a thing like that, which is a rifle grenade, and one of the ladies went, ooh! I said, no, madam, it isn't one of those. You see, my hand only shakes when I'm under stress. Some cross-grained pillock in the depth of the Ministry of Defence designed this for a youth of 19 to stick on the end of his weapon. I'll rephrase that. On the end of his rifle, with a ballistite cartridge up the spout, and approach a 60-ton tank with all the guns blazing. Now, you've got to imagine the scene. Here's a Russian T-72 tank bearing down on this poor sod, spitting fire and death, and he stood with this on the end of his gun because some other silly bastard told him to. When he pulls the trigger, it goes, floof. And I'll just about make that object there. But I defy any one of you to hit it from the other end of the room, because the trajectory is like a rainbow. It's like something dropping out of a shirt sleeve. So what does that mean to you? At 50 yards, you can't hit a tank with it. At 10 yards, it says it takes a determined man. Now, this should read idiot, because if you pull the trigger on this at 10 yards range from the side of a tank, it will kill the tank. But the blast from the hollow charge of RDX in the nose also blows the fins back. And they come back and make chips of you. So you're far better off waiting for the tank to stop. Tap on the lid, let them get out, then club the bastard to death. So much for the Energa grenade. But it's the Americans that frighten me. That big game cartridge, the Yanks will neck that down and put a little pill in the end weighing about 100 grains, a third of the size of that bullet. And when it's put in the rifle, with that big charge behind it, it comes out the muzzle of the rifle at 7,000 feet a second. God knows why, because if the bullet hits a blade of grass, it blows up. It doesn't even get to the target. And yet they will persist in making these stupid wildcat loads. They neck them down. Well, if you've had 15 shots through your rifle with one of these cartridges in, it rips the bloody rifling out when you've had 50. It only lasts 15 shots and your rifle's knackered. But it doesn't matter if you live in North Carolina, because in North Carolina, their hunting season only lasts 3 days. In 1967, I was deputized as a deputy sheriff in North Carolina. Would you believe it? They'll have any bugger. I still got the card somewhere. Deputy Bait. Deputy Dog. Anyway, on the first day of the hunting season, September the 1st to the 3rd, they have 3 days to shoot the white-tailed buck. Now, can you imagine what it's like? All the little Yanks have been polishing their ammunition and their rifles up for 12 months, and they have 3 days to shoot a white-tailed buck. There's big red notices on the first day. Do not proceed up this road after 7:30 in the morning. It is dangerous, because it's come light then. And I don't give a shite if you're in a police car, a Cadillac or a Jeep and you go up that road at 7:45, it will be full of holes before you get to the bloody hunting lodge. Because they've all got what they call buck fever. Everything with legs or wheels on each corner looks like a white-tailed buck. And if it moves, they will bloody well shoot it. Make no mistake about that. And in one instance, in the patrol car, look there, and on the field was an American farmer with a pot of white paint and a 2-inch brush painting C-O-W on the side of his cow. I thought, he's got to be a nutcase. Went over and said, I think I know why you're painting cow on the side of your cow, but I'm not sure. You don't think one of these stupid bloody hunters will shoot it, because I've not seen tits that big on a white-tailed buckies. He says, sure he will, fella. But I don't get paid out with the insurance without I've got it written on it. Could you imagine being at the back of Drayton here, between here and Odnet, and a bloke has given me permission to walk up a few pheasants on his field, and his cow bobs its head up quick, and I go bang and blow half its bloody nut off. And we go down to the Prudential, and he will say, that stupid bastard shot my cow. I want paying out. And they would say to him, have you got it written on it? He would say no, and they'd say, piss off. Get back to the 8-ball. Where I live is not far down the road, if you ever get out of here tonight. You get on the M6 at Newcastle and go north to Junction 17, where the wild goose calls. And head for Sandbach. And when you get to Sandbach, try and find Elworth. We're only a mile and a half out, but try and bloody find it if you can. Because we live in the swampy parts of Cheshire. And you can't miss Junction 17 on the M6, because we're the only junction on the whole of the motorway system that hasn't got a roundabout at the top. You come off the slip road and you're straight onto the main road. And I have sat there years ago in a panda car, yes, I've been one of those as well, with the peak of the cap glued to my forehead, and watched them come up the bloody slip road and go choop over the main road and down the other side. And we used to have bets on how long it took them to back up again. And when they finally made it to the top, give a good rollicking and send them all round by home Chapel. Oh, I was a rotten bastard in those days. And I was sitting there one night making me book up, and a gentleman drew his limousine in front of the police car and leapt out, clutching his stomach, shouting, officer, officer, I'm looking for a shit house. I said, you've found one, your offside rear light's out. As I say, where I live in Elworth, we call it Salt Lake City. They pump the brine out the ground. It drains the brine lakes and it wears away the rock salt that holds us up, so we sink. And it makes big holes in our county. Actually, in Wheelock, the next village to us, they live lower than the dead. The highest part of the village is the bloody graveyard. Someone said, I wonder why that is. It's the hand of God that's holding it up. They believe anything down there. One bloke down there, he'd been living in this old house for years. Old bachelor man, he's a funny type fishy buggers, they all have purses. And he's been his father's house, never got married, he used to go to bed in boxing gloves. And he was rummaging around the attic. And he found an old oil painting. It was an old Tretian. I know what you're all intellectuals, you know what it is. And it's worth a lot of money, about $1.5 million. And he took it down to the antique dealer, and he said to the antique dealer, what will you give me for this old painting, master? And he shouts down the cellar, hey, Fred, how many Tretians have we got? And this crafty bugger said, a couple of dozen, why? He said, we'll give you 50 quid for it. And he accepted it. And a fortnight later, he spent his 50 quid, and he was rummaging around this, and he found an old violin with no strings on it, but it was a Stradivarius. And he took it down to the antique dealer. He said, how much will you give me for that old violin, master? And he shouts down the cellar again, hey, Fred, how many Strads have we got? He said, 15 or 16, why? He said, we'll give you 50 quid for it. And he accepted that. And a fortnight later, the fair come to Welwick. And he was by the coconut shine. He was talking to his mate. And his mate said, what, you sold a Stradivarius and a Tretian for £100? You want your bloody head feeling? You've just been done out of about 2.5 million quid. He said, have I? He said, yes. So he went to the proprietor of the coconut shine. He said, will you sell me 2 of those wooden balls? He said, yes. He said, how much you want for them? He said, 30 pence. And he bought 2, put one in each pocket. And the next morning he went to the antique dealer and he pulled one out. He said, do you see that? That is the right testicle of the wooden horse of Troy. And before you shout bloody Fred, there's the left one. Somebody said, how the hell do you get in a job like that in the first place? How would you like to make your living for 46 years with bloody explosive? I have all my fingers and I don't speak in a high-pitched voice. Sure sign of a good blaster. When I left the RAF in 1945, end of 45, I went back to Rolls-Royce for my job back. And there was some nebulous prat sitting behind the desk there, and he said, the war's over, you know. I said, I know, you don't think I bought this bloody suit, do you? Mine was called Hessian. They said it was the colour. It was Hessian. It was as rough as a bear's arse. Got arms on it like a Japanese kimono, very tight round the crotch. Meant you could fly in it, but by Christ, you don't walk far in it. I never used so much of that gelatin violet in my life. I had permanent purple knackers for 3 months till I give it somebody else had to go with it. He didn't exactly make me feel wanted. So I thought I will start a job of my own. During the war years, I flew a few aeroplanes. I was on the bomb disposal unit for a time. I had a pink ship once or twice on there. And I couldn't afford an aeroplane. The ones I flew belonged to the late King. I didn't give a shit if the Crouch shot holes in them. They weren't mine. Anyway, I thought I'll blow things up for a living. And I got a license to purchase high explosives. Transport it on the road, and store it under the wife's side of the bed. No, I had to build a bloody magazine to keep it in. And my transport was an XWD aerial motorbike with 2 panniers on the back. And I used to go to the Gillette and Cartridge and Safety Lamp Company in the Potteries, purchase £50 weight of gelignite, shove it in the panniers, shovel on my back, little bag of detonators and fuse, and prat around here, Market Drayton and Newport, and buggerings around, and South East Cheshire, North Shropshire, blowing up tree stumps, shit out of pits and lumps of rock, or whatever anybody wanted blowing up. And I did 17,000 miles in the first 12 months. I was up and down like a bride's nightie on that thing. Not making very much money and getting a regular rollicking off the bank manager. And I used to go in the bank at 3 minutes to 3, hoping he'd gone home. And he used to leap up from behind the counter, saying, what's the word with you? Every bugger knew what it was about. It was about this overdraft, this £87. 87 bloody quid. It is not getting any less. I said, it's not likely to, sir. I'm smoking dried tea in my pipe now. And I used to get a bollocking every Friday afternoon off him. Then I got a job off an excitable farming person down at Newport. Dear bigger banger, come and blow us up. She sent me a card. Big, powerful woman. And I went down there, and she'd had an 8-acre wood cut down and 40 tree stumps to the acre, and said she would give me 30 shillings, that's £1.50 in the new money, for every one I blew out of the ground. And I started blowing these things up. And I'd been working there a fortnight, and she got some other idiot to start blowing them up at the other end. Now, you've got 2 hard-up blasters working towards one another, and there's timber and shit flying all over the place, and he started aiming his at me. So I started aiming my buggers back at him. I thought, and this next one's a big, and he got plenty of gravel underneath it, I'll give him a whiff of grape shot next time. And this went on ding-dong for a week. Then I got a job off Percy Bilton to tunnel under 6 pair of houses just outside Nottingham. and sandstone rock. They dug a trench 16 feet deep, solid sandstone, and I had to drill it and blow a 5'6" head in underneath these houses to put a stormwater pipe in, because the residents complaining they got salmon and sea trout coming up the skirting board. To say nothing of the Bombay fish. Anyway, and I started on the Monday, and I was drilling it 4'6" at a time, blow the rock, get it out, shore it up behind me, a couple of labourers helping me, and by Wednesday afternoon I was 16 feet under my landlady's lounge floor. Set off a round of shot, boom, and she shot out the back door with a cup of coffee all down a doobie, screaming, "No tea for you tonight, and no else for 2 nights." The woman was a biological phenomenon. I was on the rice pudding and marmalade butties. After 3 weeks of that, my eyes had gone ½ inch back in my head. Somebody said it must be the darkness up the tunnel. So the cheeky bugger said, "Try lettuce, it does rabbits good." And after 3 weeks of that, I went back down to Newport to carry on blowing up the tree stump for this excitable farming person. And she met me at the gate saying, "He's gone, you know, Mr. Bates, he's gone." I said, "Who's gone?" She said, "It's the other gentleman that was blowing up the tree stumps." I said, "Where's he gone?" She said, "Well, we don't rightly know. It's taken the council 4 days to fill the hole up in the side of the road." Seen he'd been going on one night, and they could only assume his tractor end had dropped off. He'd slewed across the road, dived through the head, and dropped 12 feet into the field. And the sudden stop of the van had caused a box of tools to slide along the floor and crush a box of the detonators, which come in packs of 100, and they had gone off. And caused what is known in the trade as sympathetic detonation. It isn't sympathetic to the poor sod that's driving the van. It means that anything explodable in the back of the van goes off with them. And the 50-pound weighted gelignite would have gone off as well, because it was rumoured that someone found his ring piece 1,000 yards down the field with his shoelace threaded through it, which led to more conjecture in the CID office at Stafford that his foot must have been under the seat when it went off. Like one gentleman said to me, "It might seem bloody funny to you, but how do you like your boot shoved up your arse at 4 miles?" I said, "There's one thing about it, sir, it's quick, and you don't even get the taste." Now, at this particular time, I say I was having a lot of problems with my bank manager. And I went in the bank again about 3 weeks after this incident, and his manner had completely changed. And he came up from behind the counter more slowly and reached out to me with a limp wrist and said, "Come in. Come in." Oh, poor sod. The strain's been too much for him. He's turned homosexual. There's a lot of it going about. Before the Liberals thought of it, I was down in Taunton blowing 3 chimneys for them buggers. One of these blokes rang me up, you know how they talk. "Ah, be that you, blaster?" I said, "Who are, Jim, lad? Who are?" He said, "We got 3 chimneys here." I said, "Who are?" I said, "Ah." He said, "We want to come and blast them." I said, "Plenty of room?" "Oh, plenty of room." When I got down there, there's 3 buggers 20 yards from the main London Penzance railway line. 2,000 people turned up to watch the Pines Express run into 1,000 ton of bloody bricks. And I shot back home, and on the Saturday night, a bloke rang me up. "Is that you, blaster?" I said, "Is that you, Arthur?" Now, I'd known Arthur for many years when he was detective constable in Oldham, because he had me running round Oldham one night at 3 o'clock in the bloody morning. We've got a Peter man in Oldham. And when I got there, this stupid bugger had blown the nameplate off 12 safes. That's all he done, blown the bloody nameplate off. I said, "Arthur, you buggering me about?" He said, "Come and have a look at what you've done in the co-op office." And what he got left, he must have put in front of this safe, and he'd blown the door in, jammed it bloody solid, and couldn't get it out. I said, "Where did we look for him?" I said, "The idiot's home." Anyway, and over the years, and Arthur had gone through the rank, detective inspector down at Western there, and he rang me on the Saturday night. He said, "We've got something funny down here." I said, "Have you?" He said, "Yes." He said, "It's making a funny noise." "What are we going to do?" I said, "Get 12 chairs, arrange them in a circle all round it, all sit down and have a bloody laugh at it." He said, "It's got to go bang." I said, "So what?" "Well, you better get down here." I said, "Who's paying the petrol?" I said, "It's a long way from bloody Sandbach to Western." He said, "The watch committee." I said, "They never do, you lying bugger." He said, "Never mind, you can stop at our house and we'll both get pissed." I said, well, that's different. In that case, I'll come. I went down on the Sunday. I went in the nick at Weston. We got in an unmarked car. I said, come on, I'll show you where it is. And we come out, and there's a bloke turned out of a side turn in front of one of those taxi-type cars with a big notice on the back. And it said, I'd be buggered if I'd be a Liberal. I said, you've got some funny buggers down here, Arthur. I said, and no white lines on this main road? He said, no bugger will bend down and paint them. Anyway, sorry about that, I digress. Back on the story now, chaps. And then the manager said to me, we're back in the manager's office, he said to me, are we at the bank, you know the point, like, we at the bank, are going to loan you, and they point at you, but they look the other way. You notice that? The only bit of human feeling he'd got was in his glass eye. We, at the bank, are going to loan you a further £40. I said, are we? You see, they'd had one of their monthly high-level financial talks. And somebody said, do you hear about that poor bugger the other week? Blew himself to shit in that van, never to be seen again. He just left a nasty smell on the side of the road. And some other tool that was saying, you always get somebody who can't mind his own bloody business, said, yes, and don't forget, we've got one in our books with an 87 quid overdraft that does the same bloody job on a motorbike. And the winter's coming on. You can imagine me going down the road with £50 weighted yelling that in the panniers, hitting a patch of ice and going bottom over apex. Well, that's over tip then. And blowing a hole in the road what he couldn't flog for the £87 what I owed him. So the idea was get the tool on 4 wheels, keep him alive till he's paid that bloody overdraft off. So with the £40 he lent me and the 35 quid I got for the bike, I bought a clapped-out Ford 8 van which was black and rust. And the missus wanted the back fence painted a brown and the gates a beige. Why, I don't know. I had 2 tins of paint left over, and this beige was more like a yellowy beige. And I mixed them together, and it come out a horrible dog shit colour. And I brush painted the van with it to keep the weather out. And they used to call it the flying shite. 4 years ago, I had a Volvo shooting brake, which was exactly the same colour. But they call that safari yellow. But it was shit coloured just the same. Anyway, I had my van and I used to come down here. I tried the halt sign at the end of Cheshire Street here. It was very difficult there because you couldn't see any bugger coming in those days when Cushion's shop was across the road. Sometimes a bit over, sometimes a bit short. This particular day I tried throwing it in reverse. I was determined to stop. And I stopped, and there was 2 gentlemen across the road, and one of them beckoned to me, like, come here a minute. And I went across to them, crossing the hands, all the clever stuff. Well, the wheel had to go round once before it did anything. And I drew within 3 feet of the curb, because I reckon if you're in 3 feet of the curb, you're bloody near enough. And one of them stepped, and one's prattling about round the back of the van, and the one that come round the front, and he's turning the headlamp round. Now, the headlamps on those old Ford 8 vans are like little coconuts, you know. There's only 6-volt lighting. I said, don't unscrew it. I thought perhaps they're an American tourist wanting souvenirs. I want it. And he steadied up, and then he said, put them on. So I clicked a 15-amp switch I'd screwed on the dashboard. And he put his hand round it, a cheeky bugger. And he said it again, put them on. I thought, wait till that bit of wire warms itself up. I'll blind the swine. Put it on, the cheeky bastard. Yeah, looked like 2 oversexed glowworms when they were on. And they both come round the side. I said, what's the trouble? He said, Transport Commission. I thought, oh, I'm in the shit now. Can have them lights put right. And you can get a windscreen wiper. Never mind that duster round the front. And you'll get a tyre on it that doesn't show the canvas. Cost me £15.10 to keep the bloody thing on the road. But it gave me more range having that van. I could get as far as Aberystwyth. And I was in Aberystwyth one day, talking to Di, and his English friend, Chaz, had just come out of the urinal. And they said to Di, there's a black man in there with a white doings. He said, don't talk so bloody silly, boyo. It's only a Welsh miner that's been home for his dinner. And two of them down at Wheelock. Steady bloody self there. And two of them down at Wheelock, they got a little van like mine. And they're going round lettering buildings. So they had a van full of letters, A, B, C, D, E letters. And they letter in this building. They letter in this building, Studley and Pollock Limited. And one of them's up the ladder. And they shout down, hey, Al, I've finished the Studley, I'm going to start the Pollocks now. And the other one's rummaging. He said, chuck us a pea up. The other one's rummaging about in the back of the van. He said, we haven't got a P. We've only got a B left. He said, we've made a right cock of the London Brick Company then. I wasn't getting enough work. I'm getting too many rollickings off the bank manager. So I had 500 leaflets printed, blasting on the top, tree stump blown up, concrete shattered, pits cleaned out, shit shifted. And I used to stick them under the windscreen wipers of these farmers' cars at Crewe Auction and Whitchurch and here at Drayton. Then they started to come a rainstorm, they start the windscreen wipers, and I got done for spreading litter. So I thought there'll have to be a new scheme. And one day, I was talking to a friend of mine over at Beeston Gun Club, and he was a public health officer in Liverpool. One of the chaps. And I was talking, I said, how are things in the public health sector, John? He said, oh, they give me the dock road. I've got to fumigate bloody ships. Oh, he said, I haven't a bloody mess. He said, I was sitting in my office the other Thursday, having his lunch, late lunch, bag of crisps, mug of tea, reading something technical like Garth in the Mirror. He trilled me hat on. Pipes turned up, he liked the heat. He said, and a lady come in my office with her hat in her finger and thumb and dropped it on the front of the desk. And she said to me, what are you going to do about that, Mr. Inspector? And with a warm, humid atmosphere in the office, he put his nose over it, thought, that's piss. He recognised the smell immediately because he'd seen him stand in front of a bright fire with corduroys on. I said, on her hat, how'd she manage that, John? Well, it seems she'd been walking along the dock road in Liverpool, which is a 20-foot wall either side, and when the gates are locked, it's like a long tunnel. There's no turning off. Because he was telling me it was November time, and he saw a bloke on fire. And he ran up there, and when he got there, he thought he was on fire, but this bloke was totally blind. And he got one of these big Labrador dogs, and it just cocked its leg up and pissed up his right trouser leg. And it was the steam he saw flying up. And when he got there, this bloke's just giving it one of them big biscuits, a big bonio. He said, by God, he said, I've seen some acts of charity in my time, but here's that filthy beast just pissed up your trouser leg, and you're giving it a biscuit. And bloke said, I'm trying to find out which end his head is so he can kick his ass. Anyway, he said... I detracted again. Sorry about that. And I said to John, on her hat, how did she manage that? So he told me, she'd be coming along the dock road, and there's one gentleman's convenience, and it's only a gent. You can go in here, have a pee up the wall, and out the other end. But the wall is here. Are you with me? Right. Now, she'd been walking up, and she had to go round the wall to get back on the pavement. And the wall she's walking under is what the one they're pointing at, Percy at the porcelain inside. And the dinner time drunks had been there. It'd been the iced up the wall for £0.50, you see. And as she walked back, somebody with a belly full of Higsons had made the air brick all over the bloody house. And she came in complaining most bitterly. I said, well, what have you done about it, John? He said, we've had some new stones in from Twyford's with a picture of a blue bottle fired in each one. Now they all try and kill the blue bottle. You daft bugger. Anyway, he gave me an idea. I thought, now if I stick my notices about 6'4" in the gentleman's convenii, is that a plural for conveniences? Can't say conveniences, is it? Anyway, at these cattle auctions, when they've had 4 salty pork pies and a gallon of tea, they're bound to go in there sooner or later. I'll stick them in there with a bit of adaldite and wait outside and watch out for those that come out with wet boots. Well, they would obviously be the more interested parties. This is what you call mass psychology. And one morning, I was at Crewe cattle auction. I was approached by a large gentleman that came out the gentleman's convenii, rummaging up and down the front of his trousers like this here. Hey, young fella, he said, I want a word with thee. Somebody said, oh, George is going at it a bit this morning. Yeah, they got a new truss of a small parasite in his crutch. He said, it's my pit. He said, it's our septic tank and all. I thought, oh, dear. He said, yes. He said, I've had a very nasty letter from the council. That was the Cheshire County Council, the all-seeing, all-powerful. I said, like what? He said, well, I got this note when we'd had one of our summers. It had rained for 3 weeks. He said, and the effluviant, not the effluent, the effluviant, is coming out of my pit and going in the ditch. And as the ditch gets into the stream and the stream meanders through Cheshire, the methane gas given off was putting the roadman asleep on the end of his brush. He said, I've had a nasty terse letter from Backford Hall saying, keep your shit to yourself. He said, I've had one of them there machines slinging one of them buckets in, dragging it out. He said, when he gets it on the bank, it all slithers back again. He said, I've been wondering. Mind you, I was wondering a bit myself. It was like watching Pot Black. He said, I've been wondering if you could bring some of that there stuff and blew it out. And he went like that, nearly fell on his back. He'd obviously had no toys as a child. In the next breath, he said, where's it go? I thought, now there's a highly technical question. Where's it go? I said, it vaporises, old chap. What goes up has got to come down. There's no radioactive fallout with it, it's all pure shite. Now, the idea is put plenty in. Give it some stick. Get the bloody lot up to 300 feet with a 35-mile-an-hour wind behind it, and it's anybody's. But you have done the job you have contracted to do. You've shifted the muck out the pit hole. Never do it on a still day, because it goes up in the air and falls back in the bloody pit again. And on a windy day, don't go and charge his neighbour for the manure. They don't like it. Especially when his missus is snatching the washing in off the line. Because when those big gobs go down, and especially if they hit blankets. You've heard the old saying, to a blanket. He said, I wish you'd come and have a do at it. I said, I shall come, given a 4-6 on the Beaufort scale. Makes it sound a little more technical, it's always good for another fiver. The following Wednesday, there was a 35-mile-an-hour wind blowing. I said, where's this pit you want cleaning out, Gaffer? He said, come down the field and I'll show you. There's a pit hole about 3 times the size of this room. And we went down the field. I took a 100-pound weight of gelignite in big 5-pound sticks. And this Cortex, this is high explosive cord, so we link it up with this. It's loaded with TNT. This detonates at 4 miles a second. And some stupid bugger made the slow fuse the same colour, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. And one of these nights, I'm going to snip a bit of that off by mistake and blow my knackers off just because of that. Anyway, so the top of this pit looked like one of Fanny Craddock's meringues gone wrong. It was covered with grommets, gubbits, and excrusions. It was 6 inches thick. I got a 5-pound stick of gelignite, threaded the Cortex through it, the explosive cord, tied a knot and slung it in, and it hit the top of this morass of shite. It upended, and something dragged it down. And a big green bubble come up and winked at me. And we heard a most evil chuckle as the swine swallowed it. And I chucked another one in on the Cortex. And in all, I got a 100-pound weight of explosive in 22 foot of shite. And when that goes off, it's all got to go. What did I tell you? In water, shite or rice pudding, it multiplies its shock wave 4 times. So that 100-pound weight is like a 400-pound free-drop bomb. You can make the test for yourselves on Sunday. Get 2 tin plates, one of crisps and one of rice pudding. Take your right hand and go whack. On the crisp, first of all. This lulls them into a sense of false security. You'll always find that mother-in-law wants a closer look. Take the same hand and go whack on a big plate of rice pudding, and even the pot ducks on the wall will get a bit. There's a shockwave through the massive liquid that does it. So we've got it all in there, and it's all got to go. Linked all the ends up, fuse, detonator, out all this. What about him down there? 100 yards down the field, there's a bloke doing a bit of edge brushing. She loves me. She loved me not. 3 snaps with a blunt hook at one twig, it didn't fall off. Put the blade on the ground, sat on the bloody shaft and start like a shooting stick and starts combing his hair. I thought, he's a lovely lad, that. Is he one of ours or one of theirs? But at that time, there were lots of Italian prisoners of war about, if you remember. I said, he'll have to shift, he's going to get the lot. We're taking 4,500 ton of vaporised shite up to 300 feet with a 36-mile-an-hour wind blowing straight towards him. He's 100 yards down the field. We have his range to a yard. He has no chance. And he said, will you go and tell him I've got a gammy leg? I said, I'll go and tell him. I walked down the field. I said to this chap, you've heard about the shower of shite over Shropshire? I said, we're having one over Cheshire today. Make the funny, laugh it up with the peasants. He turned around, simile quello, am I right? I thought, Christ, it's too good to miss. You know, excitable buggers they are. Well, that'll teach you to put antifreeze in the bloody wine. I shot back up that field. I did 100 yards in 12.4 in gumboots. I cut the fuse in 2. That gave him all of 15 seconds. The moment I lit it, all his leg got better. I've never seen a bloke move from a standing start to fast in my bloody life. And I'll tell you this, I was a close second. We got about 30 yards up the field, turned around with the wind at our backs, and the bloody thing took off. And it trickles the soles of your feet. And this column of shite rose into the sky. It's going up, and one gob's trying to race the other. Something like that tower of Babel outside Baghdad, because that's only camel shit and sand, you know. And at 300 feet, it mushroomed out. And a shaft of sunlight hit it. And you see all the colours of the starling's wing. The greens and the golds, the browns, light and dark. Streaked with a bottle green. Pig shit, a very sour smell. Especially when it's been in there for 75 here. Then the wind hit and it turned over like an avenging humbug. And the look of horror on his face, like, ah! You can't run at 36 miles an hour with clogs on and wet ploughing. He tried. You'd have tried. He's got 4,500 tons of shit chasing you down the field. At the same time he turned, his body moved and his feet didn't. Did himself a mystery. Finished up with a face full of shit and a double hernia. Then we lost him for a quarter of an hour. It went hissing on its evil way, turning from a purple cloud to a grey fog. And then we looked down the field and this gob of frog spawn wriggled and writhed and it rose up like phoenix arising from the ashes. I should have been a minister. And his first reaction was to go, ooh. And the solids had mixed with the liquids and gone into a goo. I thought, it's Clem Son, the Birdman. I said to old Tolly, we'd better go down and see if he's all right. He said, no, stay where you are, lad. Let him come to us. Keep the bloody wind at your back. No sympathy at all. A few weeks after, a gentleman said to me, will you come and blow up 3 beech trees for me on Saturday morning? Not an unusual request. I thought, Saturday morning? I've been at it all bloody week. I thought, no, I better get up there. And he lived at the Wall Farm on the Tarpley side of Oulton Park. And when I got there, he said, I hope you don't mind coming on Saturday morning, Mr. Bates. He said, but my friend's over for the weekend, and he's never seen anything blown up. Well, it gets you here, you know. Oh, poor old sod. So he got me prattling about on a Saturday morning. I said, well, there's no charge for entertainment, chaps. Where are they? And we walked into Oulton Park, left me lummoxing £50 weighted jelly night. He'd got the bloody shovel and the bag of detonators and fuse. And when we got in there, there's 3 huge beech trees. This was before it was a racing circuit. Big one. There must have been 60 ton of timber in each one. And the rabbits at that time hadn't had myxomatosis, and they'd riddled them with rabbit holes because it's sandy ground there. So I'd only got to enlarge the orifice of the rabbit holes with my rabbiting tool and stuff 15-pound weight underneath each one. I thought, I'm not prattling about here on Saturday, going to be 3 bangs in, I'm away from me bloody snapping. And I was giving them my professional patter. How do you want them, chaps? All at once or one at a time? And his friend said, 1 at a time, it'll last longer, you little devil. He bloody would, wouldn't he? I said, all right, 15 seconds between each one. And as we were saying that, the other one said, oh, look there, how disgusting. An Oldham Park, if you've been in the racing circuit, there was a pool, and the first course was shorter than the one it is now. Come all round the pool, about 2 miles, 2.25 miles. And the pool is there, and the stream goes into the pool here, and there's the pool. On the other side of the stream, there's a steep bank of about 1 in 3 with tussocks on where the cows have gone up. Must have been about 25 foot high. And it has a southern exposure, and there was a couple on the side of this bank in what we might have termed as a compromising position. Now, we could only see his arse and her knees. And that was sunburned, the swine had been there before. Anyway, I thought, this bloke's had a lot of red meat. And he said, set him off now, let's see what happens. They come to see things blown up, no longer interested, watching the couple. Of course, my excuse was I've seen things blown up before. Dirty old bastard. Anyway, let the 3 fuses run off, got behind the big oak tree. Whoom! 60 ton of timber leaps out of the ground. You know, it's a fair bloody thrutch in the ground. And there's a hell of a crash when it lands again. Now, you should have seen this bloke come off. He said, I think you've ruptured him. He said, he was on the short strokes. And he's going up this bloody bank. First on 2 elbows and 1 knee. Then he's on 2 knees and 1 elbow, making 4.5 knots, pulling his bloody slacks up at the same time. Left her semi-recumbent. Drawers on the deck, shell pink, we could see him. I thought she'd grab them and run. She starts putting them on a slope of 1 in 3, on a tussock of ladygrass. You want to try it sometime. All of a bloody wobble, gets one down, has a stab with the other, must have gone down the same one. But they were stuck at the knee joint. She was like this here, and the other bloody tree went up. Boom! Well, she come ass over apex down that bank like a shot rabbit. He said, you've hit her. I said, I've not touched her. He said, she'll drown if she goes in the brook. I said, she will with the bloody legs tied together. She pulled up 10 foot short of the deep end, obviously with a torn gusset. The rest was like a piece of pink string. Straight up at a bare ass it went. Boom! The other tree went up. By God, you could run then like a young gazelle. And disappeared over the brow of the hill. I looked round, and his mate's rolling over on the ground. One of these blokes that laughs inwardly. Doesn't like to give vent to his feelings. Tears running down his face, but he wasn't making any bloody noise. It was like that, he got ingrowing hair. And he's slapping his face saying, come, old chap, have a nice lolly, think of something else, try and get his mind off it. I thought, I'm not giving him the kiss of life. Not bloody likely. I always remember that when I was on point duty in Sandbach. Once, when they had the old police trousers with the fly buttons, I'd been round the back, undone 3 buttons when 2 would have done. And I'd done them up properly, and I must have been thinking about something. And the little old lady in Sandbach, she was 7/8 blind, she said, is that you, Constable? I said, it is, love. Will you see me across the road? I said, get out my thumb. Oh, bloody hell. I had to walk across the road. When I got the other side, is it terrible for us afflicted? Here's me, 7/8 blind, you've got no nail on your thumb. He's rolling over the ground, he's slapping his face, trying to get his mind off it. You know, I heard about the 2 nuns that went around the corner. Yeah, a bloke was standing there with something in both hands. One had a fit and the other had a stroke. We got him wheezing after about 20 minutes. And Howard Denton, Howard Wright, they had the bulldozing maniacs that Kelsley, dead now, poor old Howard. He started Alton Park, and he rang me up. He said, want you in Alton Park? Come up to the office. I want to discuss something with you. I went there, and he showed me the plans. He said, we're going to have a racing track in the northwest of England, Alton Park. So we've had permission. He says, I want you to get round there and blow any trees or tree stumps out the way. We're going to put the dozer in. McAlpines are going to put the tarmac in. I said, don't talk to me about Alton Park, Howard. I did a race round there the other Saturday morning. I said, the young fellow won't be a short head. He said, it would be time he got top of that bank. Anyway, so he said, just what we wanted. Here's the plans. Lodge corner there, Druidge corner there, Old Hall corner there, or whatever. He said, that's that bit. We didn't know what... Knickerbrook. And they still call it Knickerbrook. And the BBC used to have a tower up there with one of these bloody cameras on top. Here comes Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Jackie Short. They're just coming around Knickerbrook. But since they found out how it got its name, they've taken the tower down. They don't mention it anymore. They can't. Thank you very much for your indulgence. I'm going to have a drink now. Cheers. Mind you, like I say, just before you go, we did have an instance the other week down at Wheelock again. Alfred had died, and Enid said, I'd love to get in touch with him because it might be some source of succour to somebody. I'd love to get in touch with him again. She went to see the medium, said, we'll arrange a séance. And they all sat round with the fingers touching on Friday night. Anybody there? Anybody? And the toffee crisp didn't come down, no. Anybody there? Yes, I'm here. Who is it? Alfred. Enid, speak to Alfred. Enid said, what's it like on the other side, Alfred? He said, it's lovely. We live in a big white mansion. He said, have me breakfast, and I walk down the manicured lawn, jump in the lake, swim 20 yards to a little island, have a bit of nookie with one of the birds, come back, have me lunch, I have a snooze. 3 o'clock, I do the same again, walk down the manicured lawn, jump in the lake, swim across, have a bit of nookie with one of the birds, come back and have me tea. He said, what's all this, having a bit of nookie? What's all this, swimming in to this island, having a bit of... You couldn't swim when we were married. He said, no, I wasn't a bloody duck then. You never know your luck.